Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Paul Lambert will leave Blackburn Rovers at the end of the season, and the bookies have him in the running to become the next Celtic manager. Shay Logan has agreed a new deal at Aberdeen, and John McGinn says he'd be happy to stay at Hibs even if they fail to get promotion out of the Championship to the top flight. That's just a few of the topics we're going to be discussing on tonight's programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our bootroom guest is Mark Guidi, the president of the Scottish Football Writers, and I just thought I'd get it in possibly for one of the last times, Ruffy, before obviously he waves goodbye to that title and hands the baton over to someone else.
Yeah, it's a difficult job. There's a lot of big names had that job.
I thought you were going to get to the background to the job.
And I think it's probably a highlight of the night is when he gets up to make his speech. It's always, we've had some good ones down through the years, some better than others.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a few uneasy shufflings of the chair.
Who was it, Prezi, when you won it?
I'd be guessing.
Martin Frizzell, no?
Possibly, aye. You're right, yeah, you might be right.
Yeah. What year did you win it, Ruffy?
82.
1982?
Yeah.
Wow, must have gave you a sympathy vote after the Zico affair. Anyway, let's not go back on that. That's another hour-long special to come, how Ruffy let the nation down. Anyway, let's crack on before I get hate mail. Let's look at, first of all, Paul Lambert. What's your reaction, Ruffy?
Well, again, it's a behind-the-scenes thing. You know, it's obviously the people, the owners of the club, and maybe Paul, I'm only guessing, maybe Paul's identified that, you know, the way the club's going and it's time to get out. It wouldn't be the first time. But certainly you've touched on briefly these names we mentioned with the Celtic job. I think, again, the big question is he the name that will put the supporters back in their seats? Yeah,
there are a number of clubs that have been taken over by foreign owners, Mark, that don't really have a real grasp of English football, whether it be sometimes, in our case here, Scottish football, that you know, can interfere too much, or maybe not give the manager the backing that he's looking for. I think there were too many things going on in the background that upset Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Paul accepted the job, he was aware that, you know, looking at the previous history of the Venkies and how quickly they hired and fired, and how quickly the fans can turn on you there. So he went in to get a bit of knowledge on them, see what he could do, but he knew what he needed this summer to make them top 6 contenders next season. Clearly that backing hasn't been there, and they thought, well, I'm not going to risk my reputation, not after what's happened at Aston Villa. So he decided, rather than sitting there and being 14th or 15th in the table and people think, so he's decided to get out before any more damage is done. And I think it's the right decision, and I think Paul has got the reputation in the game and the ability to go and get a top job elsewhere. Yeah,
and talking of top jobs elsewhere, suddenly the bookies have shortened his odds for the Celtic job, Ruffy. No surprise.
No, I think obviously the connection he's got with Celtic, and let's not kid ourselves on, as a coach, as Mark's already touched on, he's very highly regarded. You know, I think the big debating point is, in every name that's been mentioned with the Celtic job, is how big a name can they get, and you have to try and get your head round, would Paul be that guy?
Yeah, I think he's actually a name that suddenly will give Celtic what I would call a fallback position, Mark, if they don't get David Moyes.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at all the other contenders, I mean, I read this morning Nigel Pearson, I thought, that's Nigel Pearson's agent. There's not a chance that I think he would satisfy the Celtic support's requirements for a new manager. And no disrespect to the man himself, who did a great job in keeping Leicester in the division.
I think Nigel Pearson is sound, there's no doubt about that. But I think the next appointment for Celtic, Peter, and we've all got a bit of knowledge of what's going on. It's somebody that's got a connection to Celtic. If you look down the list, from Davy Moyes to Martin O'Neill, to Henrik Larsson, to Roy Keane, to Paul Lambert, to Malky Mackay, to anybody else, there's probably 10 or 12 names in the run. But I think what appears to be clear is, first of all, Celtic won't appoint anybody, I think, till well into next month. I think it'll be the 3rd week, 4th week in May before the new appointment is made. Although the wheels are in motion with certain people to go and meet them. I think Davy Moyes is a clear favourite of supporters and the board. But if they don't get him, then you're right. I think your Paul Lamberts, your Michael O'Neill, your Malky Mackays, 4 or 5 of them fall into the next bracket.
And just briefly on this, Mark, and I can only take managers and people that you interview at face value. You know, I went across to Ireland, interviewed Martin O'Neill, and he said that torch has passed for me. I know there's been a little story running that, you know, journalists asked him at one of the Irish international press conferences about it, and he sidestepped it. But I don't think Martin O'Neill coming back is even on the cards.
I wouldn't rule it out. I think, you know, if Dermot Desmond, Peter Law had to go to him, he would listen. I think Martin O'Neill feels that after what happened at Sunderland, he has got one big club job left in him. Yeah. Now, if he has a really good Euros with Ireland, he'll stay on. If not, he might look at doing something. So I think Martin O'Neill, the best way to put it, I think Martin O'Neill, whether it be Celtic or any other club, but maybe particularly Celtic, because of the challenge of Rangers that's coming, I think Martin O'Neill is there to be persuaded.
Yeah, okay. Ruffy, I'm just going to write this down. We are taking Mark Guidi out for a meal if that happens, because I say not a cat's chance in hell. But nevertheless, that's the great thing about this programme. We can disagree and still hang about together periodically. Okay, let's move on to someone who we thought wasn't going to hang around. Shea Logan suddenly signs a deal with Aberdeen, 2 years. I think that even surprised the manager.
Yeah, I think Derek McInnes thought he was going to lose him. He was going to go back down south. But I think that's a great coup for Aberdeen to get him again. I think he's a terrific right back. He's been consistent over a couple of years for them, and it just takes a headache away from Derek when he gets into his player recruitment over the next few weeks to try and get players in. Knowing that he's got his right back in place allows him to concentrate in other positions.
Yeah, they have to show the fans that there's a building process there rather than dismantling the team, you know, and he was a regular in that side, and as Mark said, a right good player as well. So showing the fans that you're trying to hold on to your best players is a good sign. Yeah,
well, he's one. The left back's fine. Does he need to start looking at central defence?
Yeah, but first of all, I don't know if Derek is. One view would be look at a goalkeeper. Now, had they been able to keep Danny Ward, who I thought was outstanding the first half of the season, Ruffy, you know better than me. I mean, to be honest, I think he was probably the player of the year in the first half of the season, and they lost him the way back to Liverpool. Scott Brown's a more than decent goalie, but if you want to be really pushing next season, bearing in mind Rangers are coming back up as well, I think, and they're not easy to come by and they're not cheap either, but I think you really need to go and try and get a top goalie.
Yeah, and that's coming from a top goalie. Well, so you really have to listen.
I have to listen, honestly. Mark, don't bite. Don't bite. He's trying to annoy. You know, I was actually going to say he's trying to annoy better goalkeepers than you. That came out wrong. Anyway, just before we hit the break, though, we will hear from John McGinn, who was one of the nominees at the PFA Player of the Year yesterday. Lee Griffiths, and we'll also hear from Barry Mackay. You know, I was reading on Robbie Nielsen saying that his recruitment plan will incorporate, you know, a lot of foreign players. I start to worry. I understand what he's saying. He feels as if Scottish players are too expensive, but I start to worry where, you know, with Rangers coming back, maybe clubs are starting to go down that route where suddenly we lose another generation of Scottish players trying to get a game.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, listen, if they're good foreign players and enhance the game, enhance the Hearts team, great. But you know, they have got some good Scottish boys. You know, you've got Walker and Nicholson. You've got John Souttar. You've got young Liam Smith, who been playing at left back. Callum Patterson at right back. So they have got good ones. And listen, you only need to look at Dundee, the way Paul Hartley goes about his business. See, there are some good Scottish players out there. Look at Greg Stewart. Yeah. Picked him up for nothing from Cowdenbeath. Picked up Paul McGinn for nothing from Dumbarton. The goalkeeper as well, got him
Scott Bain
from nothing. Scott Bain from Allah. So listen, there's not. I'm not saying there's hundreds of them out there, but you know, I agree with you. I hope that all the managers don't lose sight of what's under their noses.
Yeah, I think he's probably looking for a reaction for the young Scottish players. You know, because I think they're quality that they've got there. So if he's going to start bringing foreign players in, I think they'll have to be the good ones.
Yeah. Well, to be fair to him, he's got a good record though, Ruffy.
Yeah, but I think the young players that he's got there are getting better and better year on year. So if that's the way they want to go down, if I was a young player at the club, that would give me the inspiration to prove that he's wrong.
Okay, we will hear from those aforementioned players that I was talking about as nominees for the Player of the Year awards. That dinner taking place on Sunday, and clearly the number one dinner on the calendar. I'm just looking at Mark Guidi just for a reaction.
Dougie Donnelly still hosting.
He's still there. Apologies to Dougie for that gag. We'll be back after the break when we'll be caning each other even more. Join us if you can. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our bookroom guest is Mark Guidi. I have to say, congratulations to Motherwell. Their team won the Youth Cup final at Hampden, defeating Hearts by 5-2. First time they've actually won the Youth Cup in their history, Ruffy. And I think it augurs well, not only for Mark McGee, but I think for the foundations at the club.
Yeah, well, there was a wee spell about 5 or 6 years ago when they had players coming through on a regular basis. You know, they had a great youth system and they got the benefit of it for obviously 2 or 3 years, and every club needs that. I think if you look at them all now, they're all spending a lot of money in the academies, and if you can get 2 or 3 breaking through on a regular basis, that always helps.
Yeah, I think it's good for the manager, although many a manager will tell you, Mark, yes, it's good having good young players winning the Youth Cup final. Some of them have got to be able to make the step up, but as a manager you're judged very much in the here and now. Yeah,
you know, there's got to be a balance. A club like Motherwell will always have 2 or 3 youngsters. I like Dom Thomas. I think he's got something to offer, a wee bit about him. Ben Hall, got the makings of a good defender, but they stick out for me, and I think he's played a big part in Motherwell's good run over the past couple of months. Has been Chris Cadden in the middle of the park. Great energy, goal scoring threat, and is just taking to all seamlessly. So yeah, things looking good for Motherwell, and congratulations to them for last night. Yeah, absolutely, well done to them. In other news, Alex Schalk has signed a new deal. He'll stay on for another season at Ross County, Ruffy, which is good going for Jim McIntyre. He's been a prominent figure and of course scored the goal that will live long in the memory banks. Yeah, and it's all changed up there since Jim's went up there. You know, that was a club that had players just coming and going all over the place. You know, it was maybe 5 players in for 6 months and another 5 players for the next 6 months. So Jim's went up there, he's established players that he really wants at the club, and the players seem to be buying into it because they're attracting a lot of good players. Yeah, we're at that point in the season where I think players coming and going, it's all the speculation, and fans start to get a little bit agitated if players are potentially being hawked around. One of them, of course, has got more than a few people looking at him, is Hibs midfielder John McGinn. He was speaking yesterday at the PFA Player of the Year nominations. Of course, John McGinn alongside Jason Cummings in the young player category, and well, would he be moving on from Hibs in the summer? He says he's quite happy to stay at Easter Road.
I've got 3 years left at Hibs, so unless someone would tell me otherwise, then I'd be a Hibs player. So I've thoroughly enjoyed my season, even being in the Championship this season, so I had no hesitation playing another season there. Even if Hibs don't make it through, I think that's reassuring for the fans, but as you know, Ruffy, money talks.
Yeah, but he seems a pretty level-headed guy. You know, he's not somebody who's looking for that move. Obviously, if it comes along, then they'll have to obviously discuss it. But I mean, he's seen by playing at Hibs, he can get into the international squad. You know, he doesn't have to go to a bigger club. He's already had that step up. So he'll just have to wait and see if he can take it further than that.
I think he's the one player, though. Maybe, you know, I'm waiting to see what English clubs make of Jason Cummings as well. But I think McGinn's the one player that a lot of people will look at his energy, his style of play. They'll be hard pressed if an offer comes in.
I would have to say, I think that John McGinn has outgrown the Championship, and I don't think he'd be doing himself any favours by staying in the Champions, albeit the decision's not his. A club have to come and buy him, and Hibs need to agree to sell. Now, if Hibs win promotion, Peter, I think it's fine. He'll definitely be there next season. If they don't, you know, Hibs need to look at their own budget. Could they have spent a few quid the past couple of years? Can they do it again for a third year, or do they have to sell Cummings or McGinn to finance things? But McGinn, with all respect to Hibs, within the next year or two, I think we'll go on to bigger and better things, and he's a kind of player that I think that will be it'll be worth more than £1 million to them in a transfer fee.
Yeah, well, he's been positive that he's staying for the moment, Ruffy. Jason Cummings equally so, despite that link with Rangers.
Yeah, well, these are the two players. If you look at Hibs, you know, that if the club need to get money in, these would be two. You would want to lose one rather than the two of them. You know, which one would be up to the manager. I mean, it's always the case that if you get that scenario that you have two bids on the table, you can then maybe choose which one of them you would rather keep. But I think we'll have to wait until the end of the season to see the bids coming in.
Yep, absolutely. Lee Griffiths, no surprise, he's one of the hot favourites for the Player of the Year award, and surprisingly, with 38 goals, he still thinks he's going to have to prove himself to a new manager to have a future at Celtic.
I've still got to prove myself. You know, you can't go into next season, you know, resting on what you've done this season. I said that last season, you know, but it's all about how you impress in training. You know, if you're in favour, you're in favour. If not, you need to work hard and, you know, keep your head down, and obviously you need to change the gaffer's mind.
I don't think he'll be overconfident on the fact he scored 38 goals, heading for 40, and a new manager will be possibly looking to try and add somebody to play alongside him rather than looking to move him on.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what kind of style the manager likes or the new manager's going to be, but I think regardless of who the manager is going to be at Celtic, I think a priority signing will be a number 9. You know, I'd imagine a huge chunk of the budget will go on that, because Griffiths is the only striker there. Worth a mention, Campbell Cole, Colin Kazim Richards are not going to do, so they have to go out and buy someone, and I don't think he'll want to buy someone to play underneath Lee Griffiths. I think they'll want somebody to go in as a number 1 striker and see how Griffiths responds to that. I also think a centre half will be a priority, and then whatever else a manager thinks he needs after that.
Yeah, you can always tell at this time of the season when fans are starting to put lists together of who they want out of the club. It's not always that easy. As Mark's mentioned, a couple of players that maybe don't have a future, there's a list from every fan of every club to say, okay, I think we could do without this one, that one and the other one.
Yeah, then there's certainly at this moment in time there's a few at Celtic like that, and the manager would have to go through the list when he gets there. But unfortunately for the new manager that comes in, a lot of them will be on healthy contracts, and it might not be as easy getting them to get out the door. As far as Lee Griffiths is concerned, I don't think he's got to convince anybody at club level. What he's got to do is start convincing people at European level that he's that kind of player, and more importantly, start convincing the national manager that he is our striker. So I think that would be the two aims for Lee Griffiths next year.
Yeah, and across the city, one young man I think is the darling of the Rangers support, and that's Barry Mackay, who mentioned yesterday that quite a number of people helped him believe that he was good enough to have a career at Rangers.
I think you've always got to believe in my family, my friends and everything. They all kept me. They always had belief in me, so to be able to come back, I always had that belief in myself, but it was always just down to who the manager was really, and if I was in their plans.
He's been galvanised this season. He's just a joy to watch.
Yeah, and a very level-headed young man as well, Peter. He's had a couple of bumps along the way, and I think, with all respect to Morton and Raith Rovers, the clubs he's been loaned at, he's probably looked there, the environment, a good environment, but he's thinking, I've got Murray Park every day, I've got 40,000 fans at Ibrox every other week, I want to get back to that. So he's gone back there, he's knuckled down, he's bought into what Mark Warburton and David Weir want him to do, and he's responded and implemented the way that they want him to play within their structure. So it's worked out really, really well for everyone, and good luck to him. He's had a terrific season. Yeah,
just a couple of points to finish the programme tonight, Ruffy. First one is the SFA considering now using the video technology for the next couple of years to help referees. Hopefully, I think, if I read it properly, next January it could be in operation to help the refs. I think that's the way forward. I don't think anybody will look back after that.
No, that'd be good that the referees have bought into that. I know a couple of years ago, every time I spoke to a referee, they wanted to be the main man, they wanted to make the decisions. But I think now, with the amount of criticism that a lot of them have come under through no fault of their own, just making the wrong decision, I think you've got to accept anything to help you, because a couple of bad decisions could ruin their whole career, and it's too long a time to get to where they are to lose it all.
And the last point, I don't know if it's swayed your opinion on who you think's getting to the Champions League final, but the goal last night from Atletico Madrid to win it against Bayern Munich was an absolute peach. That will be shown again and again and again. Is it enough when they have to go to Germany?
I think there'll be more goals in the second leg, and what I thought was a really open game, even though it was only 1-0. I thought it was an open game, Peter. I'm looking forward to the second leg. I think Real Madrid, Man City will be a cracker as well. Who's going to be in the final? I'm going to say it's a Madrid derby, Real Madrid against Atletico Madrid at the San Siro on May 28th.
Wow, okay, now that's punditry of the highest order. Ruffy, what about yourself? Can you match that?
No, I disagree with him. I would go with Bayern Munich. No, I think Bayern will be there. I can't see Bayern not scoring at home. They are a fantastic defending team, but they'll have to score obviously one more than them.
And who are they playing?
Atletico.
Okay. No, they can't. That's
just
impossible.
That out there. Just seeing if you were listening.
Yeah. Deary me. There we are.
Atletico.
What a way to finish the programme with complete lunacy from Ruffy.
Too many Madrid teams.
Don't write in, please. We know. Good night.